Amen. All right, so let's start off with this. Last week we covered a whole lot about Islam. Did y'all have any questions? Anything that when you went home you're like, I wish I would have asked that question? Any? Okay. Well, if y'all do, remember, my door is always open. So if something is said or left unsaid, feel free to come by my office and say, hey, Barry, can you help me understand this better? And we'll do that. And that goes for Sunday mornings too. If something is said on Sunday morning or not said on Sunday morning, just come by, say, I need to talk to you about this. Okay? So, with Judaism and with Islam, we kind of had some understanding of that. We talked about with the Jewish faith, we knew the connection between Christianity and Islam. With the Jewish faith, so kind of said they're like sisters. With Islam, we learned a whole lot about Islam after 9/11. And so we came to know more about what Islam was. For most people, they had never heard of Islam until 9/11, and people got interested. And so we learned last week that Islam is kind of more like cousins to Judaism and to the Christian faith. The religion we're talking about today is one that you probably heard about, but you've never really understood or studied or thought it had any implication to your life unless you were kind of poking fun at it. Okay? And sadly, that's how we relate to other people more often than not, is we poke fun at them. Okay? We're studying Hinduism, and I'll tell you where I first learned about the Hindu faith. The Simpsons. The Simpsons. Do y'all remember Abu?
Abu?
Yeah, Abu. Abu was the Hindu gas station attendant. And he talked like the, Hindu, and so that's when someone said Hindu, my mind went immediately to Abu. Okay? There's other things that we have learned. For example, y'all remember watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom? So the Hindus, that was the thing. I used to always think the red dot, and that came to mind about Hinduism. Or, now y'all probably don't know this, but there's a video game that I used to play when I was a kid called Street Fighter. They're fixing to make a movie about it. But they had a character called Dali, and he was a Hindu mystic, and he could stretch his arms, and then he'd float in meditation and kick you. And so, yeah, so pretty cool guy. But that was the understanding I had of Hinduism. Okay, no connection whatsoever to our lives. But yet, most people's modern day understanding of spirituality is based on Eastern religions, on Hinduism. Things that we just talk about today in a casual sense, not knowing their origins. For example, yoga. How many of y'all have done yoga? It has its roots in Hinduism. Okay? We've heard people mention karma. We're going to talk about that. Oh my goodness, karma's going to get her. Just wait until her day comes. Yeah, karma. Bless her heart. The southern version of karma. Bless her heart. But that term karma is very significant in Hinduism in their understanding of salvation, okay, and how the world works. The idea of reincarnation, another thing we spoke about a lot of times. Meditation is a big thing. So these are things that we just casually talk about now, but they all have their roots in Hinduism. And in fact, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, a big push was made by those in the Hindu faith to spread Hinduism in America. And so many of y'all remember seeing the monks at the airports, hearing little communities pop up in these certain areas. And there was a significant effort to do that, okay? So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about Hinduism. Okay? Now, when we say Hinduism, this is very hard to pin down what Hinduism actually is and what it believes. Hinduism is not like Christianity, where we could say, these are the basics of the faith. Christianity is about Jesus Christ. Okay? And this is what we believe. Hinduism is kind of like saying sports. Okay? If I say sports, what do you include in sports? Basketball, baseball, football, hockey, NASCAR. You know. What's that?
Golf.
Golf is Okay. In my opinion, if there's no contact, it's not a sport. Okay? If there's no blood drawn, you can't say it's a sport. Contact golf. Now that would be cool. Yeah, combine MMA and golf. That would be, okay, we gotta try that. Okay, but Hinduism is kind of like that. There's a basic sense of general principles, but with Hinduism, it's kind of like, do y'all remember the dishes y'all used to make or your grandmas used to make where it was everything but the kitchen sink thrown in and just, well, that's kind of how Hinduism comes out. Yes, casserole. And so it's where every religious aspect finds a means fit inside there. So even understandings of Christianity, the Jewish faith, Hindus would say, hey y'all, come in, we're all just one big group. And they all just fall into line as long as it keeps within their certain understanding. And so they believe in, well, when we talk about pluralism and syncretism where everything just leads to the same place, as long as you agree with their basic outline of certain things. And so it's not where everybody is right, per se, it's everybody is right as long as you agree with me. And so this is where we're going to talk about how they understand things and where it comes from. Second of all, Hinduism is primarily a religion based in India. Okay, so when you think of Hinduism, what do you think of? Yeah, India. It's that area. In fact, this is what's so neat when you talk about that. Hindu, the word, is not based off a teacher. It's not based off of some supernatural event. The word Hindu is actually refers to the people living beyond the Indus River in India. So it's a geographical term. So when people say the Hindu religion, what they're basically saying is India. This is it. And so that's where it's so hard to try to narrow this down, okay? And so as we go through this, we're going to find Hinduism is actually one of the oldest known religions. It's much older than Judaism, much older than Christianity, way older than the Islamic faith. And so it's a very, very ancient religion, okay? So let me just ask y'all, as we start off, what has been your understanding of the Hindu faith? Or any connections you've had with Hindus?
The cows.
The cows, yes. Yes, but you know, that was a big, y'all might remember not too long ago, I think about 10 years ago, there's a lawsuit where someone ordered a bean burrito at Taco Bell and was given a beef burrito. And I mean, it was a big, serious issue. And so they sued Taco Bell. And if they would have dug deeper, they realized that the beef at Taco Bell is not really beef.
What is it?
No, no one knows. Ignorance is bliss, Marianne. Just enjoy Taco Bell, don't ask questions. Yeah. What else have y'all experienced?
Serenity Garden.
What's that?
Like a Serenity Garden.
Serenity Garden, yes. The peaceful meditation. Okay? Yeah. Anybody else?
Elaborate weddings.
Elaborate weddings, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else?
The caste system.
The caste system, we're going to talk about that. How horrible that is.
Well, you mentioned the dot.
Yes.
I found out what that was about,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
that's good.
And so we're going to learn about that tonight,
Yeah.
about the dot. Anybody else?
And also, they have the thought that everything emanates from God, so they think everything is one, kind of all
Yes.
interconnected.
Yes, in fact, when we're going to talk about pantheism, and that is their understanding of religion, of God. So it's not just monotheism where there's only one God, which Christianity believes. It's not polytheism where there's a bunch of gods, which Hinduism has that aspect to it. But they believe in pantheism, where God is all and all is God. And so everything is God. Okay? And so we're going to talk about that when you reach Nirvana, which is more than a 90s punk band. It is the oneness with the universe. It's when you lose yourself in becoming part of God. Okay? All right, so let's talk about, and I don't want to spend too much time in the history of it because this tends to bore a lot of folks. But what is interesting about this, and I'll study this, is that the Hindu religion can be traced back to the Aryans. And I know when you think about Aryans, you're like, what? My goodness, no, the Nazis? No. The Aryans were a group of nomadic people who trekked, many believe, from Europe through Iran, through India, and all that. It's being debated now whether they actually in Europe or not. But these people would move, and they shared their language and their culture with people of the lands they went to. And so what's interesting, this is one of those nerd things, so y'all can take this nerd thing. The language of India and the language of Latin, of the Romans Latin, share many common similarities. They're the very base of the words. And then also, the pantheon of gods in the Greek mythology and Roman mythology, so many similarities with the Hindu pantheon of gods. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this. I wrote some of them down. Let me just get my glasses out. We're going to learn about the Hindu trinity of the three gods. We're going to learn about that tonight. But they mirror Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. And so the creator, the sustainer, the destroyer. And we'll see how those things mirror. There's a story about Achilles' heel. Y'all heard that story? Well, in Hindus, they have, and I can't pronounce the name, Duradhades, something like that, thigh. So it's not his heel, it's his thigh. A very similar story. Okay? So that's pretty neat that you have these stories that kind of have the same root to them. And so that's where many scholars say they all trace back to these Aryan lessons that came. But all that being said, it is a very ancient religion, the oldest religion. And you see inside your notes, there's 4 stages, okay? And so it starts off with what is called the pre-Vedic period. And so that's about 3000 BC to about 1500 BC, okay? And so this is where, if y'all remember, we talked about animism. Remember we talked about that? This was big inside Hinduism. So they believed in the worship of animals, the worship of creation, the worship of ancestors. And so there's lots of things that came with this. And so this is when the books, the Vedas, came into being. And these are just teachings that were passed down. The second period is what we call the Vedic. And this was the Aryan invasion that came through. And so this is when polytheism really took root inside the Hindu faith. So this is where they moved from animism, where the wind is a god, to where now you have the god of wind. And it takes on a personification. And so we move to that area. The third period, which is very important, is that my pronunciation of things is terrible. Upanishad period, which is about 700 BC, and means to sit at the feet of. And this is where they transition from the sacred books to sacred teachers. And so this is where we see the rise of gurus. And so this is where people say, it doesn't matter what the book says, what does the teacher say? And why is this significant? Because in Hindu, there was one specific guru who said, I have a new way of understanding things, and he started to get a bunch of students. And then he kind of got so big that he kind of split off from the Hindu faith. And guess what his name was? Huh?
Buddha?
Buddha. Yes, Buddha. So Buddhism is a split off of the Hindu faith, much like Christianity is a split off of Judaism. And so the Buddhists said, okay, first of all, we're still part of you, but then they said, no, we're no longer part of you, we have our own religion. And so they start splitting off. And so this led to a major divide. And so now, what we have today is kind of the understanding of, and it's called the Vedic revival, and it's where they've gone back to their holy books, but they combine it with the gurus and the practice of worship. So this is where we kind of see the more understanding Hinduism like we see it today. So it's kind of includes everything. Okay.
Can I ask a stupid
Yes.
question?
No such thing as a
Where
question.
does the Dalai Lama go?
Dalai Lama is more connected with the Buddhist faith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's more Tibet.
Okay,
And so we'll study him in a few weeks.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, but that is a great question. Okay. So let's start with the key beliefs. Okay. First is, who is God? And we kind of talk about this. Who is God is a hard thing to say inside the Hindu faith, because they don't believe in monotheism or polytheism, they believe in pantheism. So there is one God, but that one God is seen as this huge impersonal force that is in everything, is everything, and everything is a part of it. So the universe is all is the universe. You are part of God. God is in you, you are God. It's where everything encompasses who God is, okay? Now, some have compared that kind of like Star Wars, the Force. Remember that? That sense that the Force is in everything, and everything's in the Force, okay? But this is a little bit deeper than that. It's just that everything is God, everything contains God, and the name for that is Brahman, okay? And I don't have that up here, but Brahman is what we would say is God. Now, what's interesting is in the Greek language, there is a word that is used for that, to kind of encompass what the Hindu understanding is, and that word is logos. The logos is everything, it is what keeps the world together, it's what things, so in John's gospel, in the beginning was the word is logos. So in the beginning was the logos was with God, and the logos was God. And so the logos was made flesh. And so this understanding that there is something bigger than all these other gods, but yet all these other things come from that. Okay? So remember our very first lesson, we said as you study world religions, there's all these different religions, but they all have this one thing in common. When you get back down to the root, there's what we call original monotheism, where everybody started off with the same similar concept of one divine creator, from which everything else comes from. Okay, and then we split it off from that. Okay. So all these other gods we're going to talk about are manifestations of Brahman. Okay, so when you worship these other gods, yes, you worship them, but through them, you worship Brahman. Okay? And so in the Hindu religion, it's been estimated, now get this, there is about 330 million gods. Okay. That's a lot. And don't worry, we are not going to try to name them. Each one hope. So we're not doing that. Now, so before we get into the different deities, which I want to go through those pretty quick, I came across a video that I wanted y'all to see, because we talked about Judaism, we talked about Islam, we talked about Hinduism, but I want you to see how these things spread, okay? So this was a video that was put out about a decade ago about the spread of world religions, okay? So let's see if we can get this to work.
That's good. That's a good movie.
Yes.
Is that a horror film?
Is that married?
Okay,
Okay.
okay, scratch that, that's not gonna work. It was cool.
Do you have
What's that?
How'd you know about this?
Well, no. Okay, what happened is that our PowerPoint subscription or Microsoft subscription, we switched over to a new thing. So we no longer have just Microsoft, we have Microsoft 365. And so it's an online thing. And so our Wi-Fi right here is not the best. And so that's why it's not playing. So I'll have Noah post this on our website for people to see, okay? But it's really cool because you see where Hindu faith started off as the oldest. And at the same time this gets going, that's when you have the story of Abraham over here. And then you start seeing the same time frame, all these things start to connect. And then everything moves slowly, except for when Islam comes on the scene, it explodes. Like we talked about last week. And then you see Christianity start to explode and move. But it's interesting. This is one of those neat things. Almost every religion stays within the region of where it's formed. So Hinduism, its primary place is India. Islamic religion's primary place, Middle East. Confucianism, primary place, China. Christianity, where is Christianity centered? It's everywhere. It migrates. Because at one time it was stationed in the Middle East, then it moved to Europe, then it moved to America. Now it's moving to Africa, where you'd say that the center of Christianity is primarily Africa and Asia. And so where it's growing the most. So that's one of the things that that video kind of showed, and I hate to ruin this.
What was the name of the video?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was the spread of religion. I don't know. All right. So real quick, in the Hindu faith, there's 330 million gods, but there are 3 primary gods. Okay, and so this is Brahman I'm kind of talking about. But the 3 major gods is Brahma, okay, which that kind of looks like him, but do not confuse Brahman with Brahma. Okay, if that sounds confusing, it is. But Brahman is everything. Brahma is the creator God. Okay? So he is believed to be the creator. This is Vishnu, and he is believed to be the sustainer. And Shiva is believed to be the destroyer. Okay? Yeah. And so there's the 3 trinities. So all the other gods kind of comes through them. So in the Vedas, the oldest and holiest god is Brahma, and he is considered to be the father of Dharma, which is destiny. So he is the creator of all things. And he is believed to be the creator, but of the 3, he is the least popular. Okay, why that is, I don't know. So the other one is Vishnu, and he is the peace-loving deity, and so he is the one where he restores peace and order to things. And so he's the one where you kind of see where he's always in the meditation, or oftentimes you'll see the one leg up, and like that, to say calmness, peace. And so if you're going through a difficult time, this is the one that you go through, okay? And then Shiva is kind of paradoxical because she's known as the destroyer, but also by destroying, it's also restoring. And so it's where you destroy to restore. And so it's believed that this is the avenger, the one who makes things right. And so there's lots of different stories that go with these gods. And I won't have time to go through each one. One thing is I think is neat is that oftentimes Shiva, there's a story about where humanity was to be poisoned and killed. And so he took it upon himself to swallow the poison to save humanity. And so it's stuck in the throat. And so that's why oftentimes you'll see Shiva will have this be illustrated with a blue neck. to say that the poison is stuck inside there, okay? So, big goiter, yeah, yeah. Okay, now what's interesting is that with the Hindus, every male god is connected to a Shakti, okay? I pronounce that right, S-H-A-K-T-I. And that is, there is a female component to it. So, males can only do what they're called to do if there's a female goddess there. And oftentimes, the female goddess is more powerful and more popular than the male counterpart.
That's an answer.
About time.
Kind of like the US.
Yeah. So there's things. So here's the thing. So with, and I think, yeah, I do have this inside through your notes. For Brahma, the creator god, there is the goddess Sarasvati, and she is the Hindu muse. She is the god of music. And so she is the one who will be depicted, and she will have a harp, or she'll have some instrument, and she'll be playing. So this is one musicians pay for. For Vishnu, his wife is Lakshmi, and she is the goddess of wealth and prosperity. And so if you want to be rich and wealthy, this is the one you pray to, you give gifts to. And Parvati is the wife of Shiva, and she is a kind of a restorer, just like he is. And she kind of makes all things. Now, the other gods that you probably know of is, and you've seen pictures of, is Kali. Have you all heard of Kali? You've probably seen pictures of him. God of war. Okay? Always depicted with the tongue out, sword, and normally with a head in a hand and head in necklaces. This is the warrior god. So if you go into battle, Kali goes with you. Okay? And you fight in his name. Okay? Now, what is also goes with this, and it's kind of weird, is that Kali is often associated not just with death and violence, but also sexuality. And Kali is a female, and she is known as motherly love. But one of the things that she destroys is supposed to be negative thoughts, negative attitudes. Okay, so if you need to be fixed, something to change about you, Kali will come in and fix it or get right. You know, but it's kind of goes back to that restoring. The other one that you've probably seen is this, Ganesha. This is the god of removal of obstacles. So if something is blocking your prosperity, if something is blocking where you need to go in life, you pray to this god, and he or she will help you. Now, this was interesting. So I want to read to you the origin story. Okay, he was created by Parvati, Vishnu. Shiva's wife. Okay, so here's the story. Someone came in to try to visit Shiva, but they were stopped by his wife. So this is where it says, incensed by the refusal of her husband to respect her privacy, to the extent of entering her private chambers even while she was having her bath, Parvati decided to settle matters once and for all. Before going for her bath the next time, she rubbed off the sandalwood paste on her body, and out of it created a figure of a young boy and infused life into him. Soon after, Shiva came to see Parvati, but the young boy blocked his way and would not let him in. Shiva fought with this boy and severed his head. Parvati, returning from her bath, saw her headless son and threatened in her rage to destroy the heavens and the earth. Shiva pacified her and instructed his followers to bring him the head of the first living being they encountered. And the first creature they encountered was an elephant. So that's why. So for that story, ladies, if you can't get any privacy when you take your bath, okay? put a statue out here and say, you want to lose your head? Okay, this is what happens. Okay. All right, so any questions about the deities?
So where do they get all this from?
Well, again, this is where
They made it up.
there's stories, there's different poems, there's different things they all come from. But, they all can be traced back to these three gods who then created these other gods. But those three gods are manifestations of Brahman. So they would still say there's one God. One God, but these other things are manifestations of this one God. And so that is where you can't say that Hinduism is truly a polytheistic religion because it has aspects of monotheism, but also it believes in pantheism. So that's where I say it's kind of hard to.
So do
Makes
they
sense.
have a book like the Bible that if there's?
Yes, and that's what we're talking about.
Far over my head, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because the Hare Krishnas
Yes.
used to hang out at the airport in the 70s.
Hindus.
Hindu.
Yes. Yeah. And so we're going to talk about all the different branches. Okay. Now let's talk about us. Okay. According to the Hindus, every person has a soul. Okay. And your soul is what they call the Atman. Okay. Do I have that up there? Yeah. The soul. And your soul is a part of the Brahman. Okay. So you have a little bit of God in you. Okay. And so that little soul is not corrupted by sin, as in our understanding as Christians of original sin. Okay? It's just, it needs to be healed. And so the way they go about this, in order for you to come back to this, is you have to go through the cycles of life. Now, they have different purposes in life. Okay? So in Christianity, why do we exist? Why are we here? Well, Hinduism answers that question this way. So first of all, you have Dharma. Okay? Government that shows Dharma in gray. Okay? Name comes to this. Which means fulfilling one's purpose. Okay? So you have a reason for existing. It's your job to find out why that is. And you fulfill your destiny. Okay? Artha, that's prosperity. Okay? That is where you're going to be rich, famous, whatever you want to call it. However you define prosperity, that's what it is. Okay? Kama, that is your desire, sexuality, enjoyment. Okay? Now, most people do not know anything about Hindus or about Hindu books, but there's one sacred book that almost everybody knows of the Hindu religion, and it deals with this purpose, Kama, and what's it called? Sutra. The Kama Sutra. Okay?
Oh, super.
If you see it, don't open it. At least not when there are other people around. Okay? It's a very sexual book. Okay? Yes. It's dirty.
Is it pornographic?
Yes. It's supposed to have 90-something positions.
Oh my God.
So for you to down. Anyway, let's not talk about that. And then the final stage is moksha, which is enlightenment. Okay? And enlightenment does not mean salvation as we think of salvation, where we get to go to heaven. Enlightenment is where you return back to Brahman, to where you become, once again, one with everything. So the understanding is that, if you think about a cycle, the ocean will be heated and you'll have water that will evaporate and go into the cloud, and then the cloud will condense and a raindrop will fall and it falls back in the ocean, and so the water goes back to the ocean from whence it belonged. And that's what they say is how this happens. That is enlightenment, that's motion, okay? And so, to go with this, there is an understanding of how do we get to here? Well, you got to be purified. You got to be made to be one. Well, how does that happen? Well, the universe will make things right. And that is called karma. okay? Karma is basically, is the idea that your actions will come back around, okay? So, you see here, this is a great way of illustrating this. You push something down, it comes back to get you, okay? So, the universe, this is not judgment, this is just, you reap what you sow, okay? And so the consequences of your life, okay? So, people experience karma in life, but not just in this life, okay? Because how do you go through that process of dealing with this, okay? I kind of keep karma in mind, which y'all heard of karma before, right? Okay? Okay, this goes back to the Hindu understanding of time, okay? Time in the West, we see it as linear. Past goes to future. And there's a starting point, and there's an ending point. They see it as circular, more like seasons. You have spring, which is new birth. Summer, you live your life. You have the fall, where you get to middle age. Winter, death. But what happens after every death? Spring. Okay, so there's new life. Okay? Spiral is another way of seeing that, just saying everything's going down the drain. Okay? But so they see this, that you are constantly stuck in this pattern until you can find the enlightenment and escape and find nirvana and find that release, that peace. Okay? So how does that happen? Well, it happens through what we call reincarnation. Okay? So, where you are in this life is based upon the karma from your previous lives. And so, wherever you are in the status of life, you're not really supposed to help very much or do things because people, that's the universe punishing them, or the universe giving them the hand that they deserve. Okay? So people are born into a certain status of life. So, all this means, and this goes to one of the things about the Hindu faith that can be very respectful, I like about this, all life is sacred. Okay? Not just human life, all life. Because all life is part of Brahman. And all life is part of this reincarnation process. So, if you, to say, lived a terrible life, did poor choices and all that, you may be born again, but not as a human, but you would come back as a fish, cow, worm, whatnot, okay? And you, what's that?
Are they fated?
Yes, most are. And so there's that wonderful, and that's why you hear stories about Hindus where they will not even step on an ant. They will be very careful about killing insects, okay? Mice, they will pick up, release, okay? So, and there's something about that's things, but some bad parts that come with this is that because of where this whole reincarnation, is called samsara, that's the term that they use, and it means wanderings, okay? But it's an endless cycle of lives. Hindus do not see it as a positive thing. You know, they don't see it as a great thing. It's more like suffering. You know, you mean I got to go through life again? You know, I got to go through this? And I don't know, one minister, I was reading this a while back, he said, any belief system that says you have to go through puberty twice, you know, that's terrible. But what this ends up happening is people are born into a certain station of life. And in India, they have what is known as the caste system. Okay? And so you have, at the very top, the Brahmins, the very top, the priests, the holy men. Then you have the next level, the warriors. Then you have your merchants, okay? And these three are known as the twice born, which means that they can be involved in the worship They can be involved with certain politics, certain things. They can be involved in leadership. They also can read the scriptures and understand them. So these people are very elite. Okay. This next group, they're not so elite, but they're okay. They're just normal people. Okay. The bottom ones. This is known as the untouchables. These are the people who are declared unclean. They believe that they are outside the system, and so they are the lowest of lows, and they are the people who, if you've ever seen images of India,
Yeah.
and there are people laying on the streets, and no one helps them, they're the untouchables. Okay? One of the things that Mother Teresa did is she would go and minister to this group. And it's the majority in India. Okay? And so these people are believed to be outside of anything. And people say, they have a hard life. They're hungry, they're starving, they got so many problems. We'll say, well, guess what? You deserve it. That's what you did. And if you think that that's foreign to us, it's not. Remember in John's Gospel, in John chapter 9, when they come across a man born blind, the disciples ask a question. Yeah, who sinned? Was it this man or his mother? Okay. Now they didn't believe in reincarnation, but they believed you get what's coming to you. Okay. And so this is their belief, that they believe that people are deserve what they get. And so these people are considered almost non-persons. Okay. So in fact, in many ways, they're believed to be less than animals and all this. They're just at the bottom of the barrel. Okay.
Will they be born again?
Well, yes, they hope so, but it may come back as something else. But it's they have not. They got to work their way up. And so what I believe is you go through these cycles, is that you work your way up through all these until you get to be up here, and then eventually you find escape. Okay.
How do you work your way up? When you're alive or?
Doing your duty. So you fulfill those 4 purposes. So like if your purpose is to be one of these folks, you got to live your life and do it. Suck it up and live it. Okay? And then you live that and you just keep going. Okay? And so one of the things that they have a hard time understanding is the concept of grace. Okay? Because it's hard for them to comprehend. Okay? This is also why, and this kind of goes to this, the culture there, if you got to fulfill these duties and all that, well then it's tied to honor too. If you're one of these things, you got to do your very best to live this, to escape, to move up. Okay? So, if your job is to be a doctor, you got to be the smartest doctor there is. If you're going to be a chemist, be the smartest chemist. Okay? One of the things about India, where we have a lot of doctors, a lot of scientists, there's a big stress to be perfect.
Pretty good spellers, too.
Good spellers too, you have to be something, yeah. And so there is the, go for it. You gotta succeed. And it's tied to this understanding. Okay? And the whole idea is that you will find liberation where you escape this, and that's called moksha. We still talk about that, enlightenment, and then you become one with the universe. And that's nirvana. So, just kind of like that joke. Have you heard about the Hindu monk who went through New York and he saw a hot dog stand? And the guy said, what do you want? He said, make me one with everything. Okay. So with that being said, do y'all have any questions about that? Yes.
I kind of figured out in my own little tiny brain that Hinduism, I'm confusing with Buddhism.
Very easy to do because they are connected.
But the Buddhism is the one with the cows.
Is the one with,
No.
no,
No,
well,
it's Hindu.
Hindus have the cows, yeah. Mhm.
Why do they worship the cow?
Because the cow is giver of life. It has milk. It provides. It's a docile creature, so it is peaceful. And so it's kind of like the embodiment of everything that is holy in their viewpoint. And so it's a sacred object. And so, yeah.
I thought I had straightened out, I don't.
All
What
right.
do these people eat?
Vegetables, you know, that's it. A lot of them have vegan diets. Yeah. Dairy products, so, yeah. Okay, so, a couple other things. The 3 paths to get to enlightenment. You have what is known as karma marga, okay? That is the path of words and action. So, you have to live a certain way, okay? Do good things. You have, and that's supposed to be jhana marga, the path of knowledge. So you learn, you study, become a guru. And then bhakti marga, the path of devotion. That's where you worship. A lot of these is where you have the ascetics. So that you see the monks who will hurt themselves, who will go and live in the cold and torture their bodies the same. Why? Because they're trying to show their devotion. Okay. All right. So the holy, we talk about the books. Okay. There is the Vedas, which is the sacred writings of Hinduism, which date back to about 1200 BC. They are the most holy books in Hinduism, but very seldom ever read or seldom referred to. The Hindus do not believe, like for us, we say everything goes back to the Bible. Okay, test everything through the Bible. But like almost every religion we've studied so far, it goes back to not so much belief as it is practice. Okay? And so they want to understand how these things, how you live your life. And so, the big books that come from these after the Vedas, there is the Brahmanas. Y'all, I'm going to butcher these names. And that is discussions of the rituals that you do. The Aranyakas, which is studies in the forest. And the Upanishads, which is the philosophical writings, which that is writings of different gurus. Okay? And that's what they were primarily. But the big one is not just holy books, but holy people. So, what they will look for is the Brahmins, okay, the priestly class, okay? So, if you want to find how to be a good Hindu, you find one of these guys. Or you find a guru, okay? How many of y'all knew that was an actual religious term? You know, I just thought it was like a slang term, you know? You're a smart guy, you're a guru. Yeah.
Is that we used to hear about swamis. You don't hear that term anymore.
Yeah,
Is that Hindu?
it is, but I couldn't tell you exactly what Swami is. Do y'all know?
You don't have that.
It might be. The only thing I know Swami is from Chris Berman. When he would do his football predictions. And he would put on a Swami hat and make predictions. And he was never right, so Swamis are wrong. Okay. So you have the guru, you go listen to them, and so we're going to talk about that. So Hare Krishna, okay?
Yeah.
He is a guru. Y'all have heard of y'all know what I'm trying to say. Meditation. Transcendental meditation. That came from a certain guru. He taught that school of thought. And so that was his belief system. And so you would find a guru and you would listen to those teachers. Okay? And then the sadhu is the ascetic devoted to Brahman. And so these would be like what we say monks. Okay? All right. Now, let's talk about Hindu worship real quick. Hindus have elaborate temples.
Wow.
If you go to India or Indonesia, you will see these gorgeous temples. And they bring gifts to their gods. So like, it's nothing for you to see that you would have bowls of fruit sitting out. Or like different things where people will bring gifts. So like the way that we bring our offering to, they bring these things, the first fruits, to them. And so, but your worship starts at home. And so you'd have a little altar or a temple, like a mini temple at your house. And so you had an altar to your God. And you would pick which God you wanted, okay? So the 330 millions, you find the one that's most closely connected to you, and you would say, I want to worship this God. So in many ways, it's similar to like what, you find your patron saint. And you would say, okay, this saint is the one that's most connected to me. Well, they would find the one that's most connected to them, okay? They would have statues. So we would say those are idols, but they would say, no, we know that that statue is not our God. It's just a representation of our God. Much like in the Eastern Orthodox Church, they have icons. They would say it's similar to the icons. They're like windows into the gods. So you get to see them through that. Okay? So when you care for the statues, you're caring for the God. Okay? So that's what we're kind of getting confused. Now the other thing that I think is really neat is they believe there's a sacred sound. That sound is okay? And they believe that when you produce that certain frequency, it captures the essence of Brahman, and you put the chanter in touch with it, and so what happens is that you connect with the divine, and it helps to purify and empty yourself, things. So that's where, this is what it kind of means, the all, the who. So this kind of goes, so it's kind of like you're like, empty, bring in. Empty the bad, bring in the good. And so they believe that that frequency is a holy thing, okay? And so if you think about it, it kind of, you feel better when you do it. Yeah. And then all the times they will add like little rhythms to it. And so you'll hear and so just think about it. Go listen to Hindu music, and almost every song, that bass of the song is okay. And it's supposed to be relaxing and help you out, okay, and link you with gods, okay.
So was Mother Teresa Catholic or
Yes.
was she Hindu?
Catholic. Mm-hmm.
But she was born in India.
No, she was actually born in
Alabama.
yeah. But she went to India because there were these people who were untouchables,
Oh,
and you could not, they didn't care for the kids, didn't care for these people, and so she would go,
okay.
and that's a big thing, the untouchables, she'd go and touch.
Do they need to go in the temple, the
No.
untouchables? So it's just,
The top three,
the top three little
Yeah.
people that can go in?
yes, yeah, so they all want to get to worship.
So what are the others?
They just try to live the best life they can, find a guru, do what they can,
Right.
but to try to get above,
Do they go to university or anything?
no.
Does anybody get educated?
I don't know.
Yeah, those top three classes,
Just only the top three?
yes, yeah.
What's the significance of the hands on the gods? On the other ones, you had 4 feet.
Yeah, that, I couldn't tell you, I read about it, but I couldn't remember, so I don't wanna misquote, but, yeah.
Purposes of life.
I'm guessing, I don't know, but maybe I think it's for just to slap
One of them's
people.
got a whole lot of arms.
Yeah, well, they all do, almost every vision of their God have multiple gods. I don't know why that is. Okay, now real quick on our time's up, a couple things. Why do we wear a red dot on the forehead? Okay, it's a religious symbol, it's like the third eye, represents wisdom, okay? If you look inside, you touch, the divine part of you, the Brahman, okay? So, put it there. Also for women, I have it there, it's a beauty mark, but it's also a signal of being married. So if you see a Hindu girl with the red dot, she's taken, eyes off. Okay. The greeting, you've seen them. Namaste, okay. That's just a peaceful greeting, kind of like where we used to take hands a lot, but it's, everything in the Hindu is supposed to be about peace. Okay. So that comes in. We talked about the idol worshiper. We don't get that more. Okay, so the different sects of the Hindu faith, we kind of talked about this. The one thing that we confuse with the Hindu faith is the Sikhs, I can't pronounce it. Sikhism, okay? If anybody knows how to pronounce it better than I do, please say it. But these are people who, because, and this is where I really wish I could have showed you the world religions, Hinduism and Islam confronted each other as they were growing. And so there's regions of India that came under the influence of Islam. And so, you all study history, that's why we have the India and Pakistan. After World War II, they separated that. And it's supposed to be a Muslim part and an Indian, and a Hindu part. And, but there are certain folks, when they started this, there was a group who said, you know, I like aspects of the Hindu faith, I like aspects of the Islamic faith. And so they combined both parts, and they became saints, okay? And so they kind of have the same teachings of Hinduism, but the strict monotheism of Islam. And they have, but they're not Hindus, and they're not Muslim. Now, what's sad about this, after 9/11, just look, who do they look like? Muslims.
Yeah.
They got attacked.
Oh.
And they were like, listen, we're not Muslims. You look like a Muslim to me. And so, and this is where the hatred. Now, they have a couple things that they believe in. They have the 5 Ks, which I think I have, no, I do? Okay, I do, I have it right here, okay, yeah. The kesh, the uncut hair, okay, so that's where they wear the turbans, and they take the turban off, hair comes down everywhere. The kangsha, which is a wooden comb, the steel bracelet, but the thing they're known for, their sword, okay? And so, whenever I see an image of this, you know who I think of?
Indiana Jones.
Well, yeah, Indiana Jones too, yeah. Captain Nemo. Remember that story? Yeah, his sub that he had, the big ship he had, Nautilus. Yeah. Because he was a Hindu, but he also was Muslim, and so kind of plays into that.
That's bad.
Yeah. All right. So at 6 o'clock we've covered everything. Now a couple of things I didn't say is that there are other branches of Hinduism, but they're still Hinduism. They're just centered around a specific guru. So Hare Krishna, he was one to get you in touch with your Krishna, which kind of is your consciousness, okay, with Brahman. And so they were followers of this one guru to help you do this. Like I said, the transcendental meditation is another aspect of that, so they follow guru. So there's always different gurus coming up. Also, we didn't have time to go into this, is that Hindus believe at times the gods will manifest himself through a representative on earth. And they will call that person an avatar. Yeah. And so those avatars will be someone who the gods work through, okay? So, when we talk about Jesus, we believe to be the divine Son of God, right? Hindus say, we love Jesus too. He is the avatar of Brahman, okay? And he's a guru that taught us how to live. And so, one thing I think is interesting, and this is, I know our time's up, but every religion we've talked about, they have major differences. But one thing that they all agree on, Jesus is a pretty cool guy. Everyone has a positive view of Jesus. And so when we are talking to these other faiths, we automatically want to jump into our differences. But we can start off with, hey, you like Jesus? I love Jesus. This is who Jesus is to me. So tell me why you think Jesus is so great. And you find that commonality. And from there, you move forward.
So do we have a lot of Hindus here?
I think we're getting more and more, but one of the things that people don't understand, Christianity is exploding in India. Especially among guess which class? The untouchables. Because now you're having people come along and saying, hey, I know they say you're worthless. God loves you. He died for you. He's redeemed you. And so that is where the act of compassion in India, where, Mother Teresa, people like her, who go there and show compassion to people, that opens the door to share the faith. Okay?
It's something that would give them hope,
Give them hope, yes, okay?
not just this
So-
fear.
Yes, yeah, and that's, okay, my soapbox real quick. You can never disconnect evangelism from outreach. Okay? If you just do outreach, you're missing the point of sharing Jesus. But if you just share Jesus without outreach and helping people, you're telling them stuff, but you're showing that you don't care. Okay? Outreach and evangelism go hand in hand. Okay? So keep that in mind. Yes?
Who was the apostle who they think went to India?
Oh,
My kids have
Yes.
friends from India.
I want to say it's
So-
Thomas. I want to say it's
Okay.
Thomas, but I'll have to double check on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because they say
Mhm.
their church goes back to the apostle
Yes.
who went
Mhm.
there.
Yes. Yeah. And so I will double check before next meeting we have, and I will let you know about that. Okay. All right. Any other questions, Trish?
I just wanted to say, on the dot,
Yeah.
because of the way that the world is becoming and the younger kids that are, or the younger people that are coming up, some of the married women that are younger don't wear a dot. They do a,
Mhm.
some kind of specialty type deal
Yeah.
on their forehead now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
But if it's on their forehead, it's a married woman.
Yes, and understand this, that, we always talk in generalities, okay? But understand that the same struggles the Christian faith has with bringing the kids up and, like following these footsteps, same thing that Islamics have, same thing that Hindus have. These wayward kids, not listening to their parents, not following the faith of their fathers, and so there's always that battle. So not everybody, not every Hindu is going to be exactly like this. Okay, but this is just a general sense. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
I did the Google of St. Thomas. You're right.
St. Thomas, okay.
The Apostle of India.
Thomas,
Is the arranged marriage a cultural thing, or is it part of the religion?
cultural. Yeah. Big thing there. All right. Y'all remember in our schedule next week we will not be meeting. Okay. I will be in Kentucky. We're going on a mission trip. Appreciate your prayers. Looking forward to it, but we will not be meeting. But the following week after that, we're going to pick up on Buddhism, okay? And so we'll get to learn about that. And that's one of the religions where you don't necessarily have to believe in God. Okay, so it's interesting how you have religion without God. So that's where we'll talk about that, okay?
They got